I booked this trip because I didn't want to feel lonely at the Christmas dinner table, which happens, being single and sober at Christmas parties. It's just not ideal. So, because I didn't want to feel lonely, I decided to isolate myself on an island in Northern Norway during the darkest days of the year. I did not foresee what was going to happen. I did not have a clue what I was getting myself into at all, which is probably why I went. Because if I would have known on forehand what this all would actually entail, I would probably not have gone. So, of all the things that I predicted, I had this very clear vision of a fantasy of what this was going to be like, this trip. And I really had hoped that I would see, snowy and icy, and then I would maybe see an orca swimming by from the house. And then, because the island is known for orcas, it's not like I just really tried to manifest that from nowhere. Like, to have an orca swim here in the Dutch rivers. Okay, the chances are not that. Like, I was already a bit more realistic. So I really got to this island because it was known for the orcas there and also for it being very far out of the mainland. So northern lights were also very possible to be seen there in this specific house. And yeah, the fact that it was a bit of a ski ocean house, which is a weird combination if you think about it, but this particular island had the possibility to ski next to the sea. So I had a vision of what this was going to be like. I was going to potentially ski, and maybe if I was not going to ski, I at least was going to see the place where people were skiing down the mountain next to the ocean, maybe catch a glimpse of northern lights while we're at it. And then while we're just taking a little break in our skiing adventure and we're looking at the ocean and we see a little pod of orcas. That was my expectation. None of that happened in that way. A lot of those things did happen though, but not because of my planning, because my plan got me straight into the darkest point of where I've ever been. And what 8 days of darkness does to a human being is something I cannot explain to you. I can share with you what it was like for me and what my experience was and what it did for me. But if you actually want to have a reset of time, clocks, calendars, and everything that is so commonly known as normal in the Western world, I would really recommend try to book something like this for yourself. Because I met myself once again in one of the darkest ways. And I got scared a few times, yes. I didn't know it was possible to upgrade my spirit. It was basically like a darkness catharsis almost, because I just went for it and I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know an energetic upgrade was possible like this. I really didn't. So, expectations versus realities, right? Like nothing happened the way I thought it was going to happen. And that's probably a good thing. So, let me tell you how this actually came together. Like, how do you think of something to do like this? So basically, it was coming up to Christmas, and I could already picture myself at all those different dinner tables. My parents are divorced, so I've got like double the fun at Christmas. And then being solo and single and sober and moving around between all these 6 different family parties within 2 days, and then being burned out because of it, and then having to recover for the other 3 days that I've got. And then I've got to find some kind of party where I would have to be because it's New Year's Eve. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do this. And I may do Christmas and New Year's in Netherlands here again. I don't know. But last year I was not going to do it. So Christmas in the Netherlands is beautiful, and Christmas celebrating with your family is also relentless. It's beautiful, but relentless. And someone just mentioned like, hey, why don't you look up where you can see the Northern Lights? And then I found this whole area of the North Pole Circle in Northern Europe where I could actually find Northern Lights. And then I started to find this new hobby of mine, which I have discovered last year when I traveled to Madeira, Portugal, and I saw dolphins for the first time in the wild. I was like, what if I could see orcas? Like, of all the dolphin dreams I had as a child, Free Willy was one of my most favorite films that my grandmother had. So I decided to go for it. And somehow I just booked it. It went in the flow, like in the computer flow, in the Google Angels flow. So what I did not research besides getting a car, I knew that I needed to have a car there. I found myself a car with spikes in the tires, which came in very handy because it turned out to be very icy on those roads. And it turned out to be very stormy during those days. So me and my 6 orca tours that I had booked, because I figured that if I will book 6, then at least one of them has to come through, did not work. Yeah, so I even took my own food because I knew it was going to be very expensive. And I also prepared for being in the North Pole circle area. So I did have some food of myself, and I even had made a little groceries list in the plane. So I knew once I would have the car, I would have to get to the supermarket, and then for the next 2 weeks, I would have to find my food. A few things I didn't know were that I landed on Christmas, and Christmas Eve is not like in the Netherlands, like a fun excuse to just be with each other. No, it means everything is closed because everyone is with their families. Everyone. Gas stations closed. So basically, in all the human foreseeable future things that I planned myself, I had done my utmost best to prepare myself. I did buy the Scandinavian snowy suit. Like I did realize that maybe with a Chinese copy suit, this would not be the best chance for survival. Stuff, like I prepared for Nova Zembla. I did not realize that everybody would be inside with Christmas. Like even here, like people are celebrating Christmas with families, but because we are with so many people on such a small surface in the Netherlands, you will always see somebody going somewhere, and like tank or gas stations will always be open, and there are 24-hour stuff and stuff like that. Was not here, man. I did not see that coming. What I also did not see coming were the amount of Asian tourists that did not know that you would need tires with spikes. Like I didn't even prepare for that. I was just very lucky that I got a car via, let me look it up right now, because otherwise I will never, ever do that again. Here, what's it called? Get Around. No, that's not so hard. Okay. Yeah, so I booked myself a car via Get Around, which was basically the perfect system because all the other people who had just came out of the airplane had to wait in line for the rental services. And because I rented from a private owner, he actually made sure that I was going to take care of the car in a way that I was not going to slip off the road and stuff like that. So I had spikes in the tires. I could really recommend that. Like I couldn't even imagine not having spikes in the tires and driving around to Arnoya and the icy roads, because it wasn't only icy and stormy and snowy, it was also rainy at times, and the roads were not always de-iced. Is that a word, how you would say it? Okay. What it would be like to have no perception of time for 6 days straight. I had no idea. I also found days that the only thing I did was to free my car from ice. And I think before I'm going to dive into all the experiences and what it actually was like, I do want to talk about fear, because I've been meeting my fears in many different ways. It already said like you shouldn't be going for Christmas completely alone. Like what are you going to do? Something will go wrong, and you're going to be alone on the North Pole. Like what are you going to do? And yeah, I just realized that listening to those fears and deciding to not go would actually be to avoid it. And I was very aware I was escaping. I told my family that there was no secret in that. Like I just needed a break from the Christmas that we celebrated. And I also proposed that maybe next year we can find another way to celebrate Christmas, because I'm not going to have a burnout every Christmas. I'm just not going to do it. And I was longing for something that I couldn't find here in the Netherlands. What it was, I didn't know, but I did know that the fear of, it not being what I expected. And especially being there in a haunted house where I only spent the first night in the upper floor, and then I decided to move and set up camp in the living room. I was like, Bear Grylls in nature, who's going there with a camera. Like, I didn't realize it back then, but the artist in me just needed complete silence. And I needed the darkness, because even though I'm sober, doesn't mean that I am not loving the darkness anymore. And I'm not saying that I am dark side. I am light. I love being light, and I love the light, and I love color, but I also love the night, and I love to be a night owl, and I love what can grow in the darkness. And it's just so fascinating to me that we've got night and day here on this planet, and that in Norway, the sun doesn't come up for over 30 days. Like, people there don't see sun for over 30 days. And I already have a hard time when it's raining here, right? In June. Like, I'm wearing a sweater in June. Like, oh, that's sad. But to think of even the people that are from the island there would move away with Christmas because it was just too dark for such a long time. And then in combination with not just darkness, but also stormy weather. So that made it happen that I was stuck inside for 6 days in that haunted little house. And all I had to do was make my car snow free and then go drive 10 or 15 minutes, which didn't feel like that because it felt like hours, because it was the only thing I did on a day, and then go back inside and make food. And somehow there, the time of it was like I was there for 9 weeks. I seriously felt like that. And it's probably because whatever happened there, I didn't have to perform. There was no audience. There was not me witnessing witnesses. I was not witnessing anybody. And I was also definitely not performing for my own family to maybe find some approval and basically to earn my place at a table there. And that's not something that my family could do for me. I needed to do that for myself. And this whole travel started something. It kickstarted something in the process since January, that I'm now ready for my audience. I now want to share, and I do want to share what I find, and I do want to share what I create, because, I'm an artist. I really am. And this was just a very spooky, cool trip that I needed as a complete reset. Yeah. So the house. I definitely believe the house was haunted. And night one, I was in bed and, it was completely dark outside. I heard all these scary sounds, like ticking on the window and like children playing, and like it was like horror. So I let it go. Yeah, and I met the trolls, and I also met the local legend of the. Let me look it up. It was like the sailor man or something. Let me check. The Draugen is the restless, ghostly spirit of a drowned sailor who met a tragic death at sea. Yeah. We met. He had great little fishnets, like, going at it. The spirit is described as blue with hollow eyes. Their hair or shoulders are often depicted dripping with dark seaweed and fishnets. They are said to row a half-boat, often called a halbo, gliding silently across the freezing Arctic water. I didn't see the boat. Gotta be honest, I didn't see that. He was just like standing there. The Draugen is not just an evil spirit, but an omen. Whenever his eerie, ship-sinking groan is heard through the night, it is a warning of impending death. If a sailor sees him or if his ghost ship touches theirs, it is believed the witness will drown before dawn. What? No. I did not get into that. We didn't go there. Why? Why does it have to be so dramatic? We just said hello and then hello. That was it. I did say, please don't come any closer. But he also wasn't in his boat when I met him. I don't know. Maybe I didn't meet Draugen. I didn't die then. I did die in this other moment, but that was not here. Yeah, the Draugen. Yeah, I saw some. Let me tell you, I met a being. He wasn't nasty at all. It was more like he acknowledged me being there on the island and I acknowledged him, and then we moved on. He with his non-life, undeadly existence. And I, with my little artistic reset adventure. Yeah, it was nice. Like, it sounds weird, but it was actually a little nice to have met. Anyway, we're gonna continue with me trying to finish this video because, you know, it's not going on its own. Okay, so here's what 8 days in the darkness actually does. The snowstorm came in completely unexpected for me, but there were 8 days of no sun. There was not even a suggestion of an existence of the sun, and 6 days felt like 9 months. There were no visual clues. There was no clock hour thing that was going. Somewhere around day 3, I guess, because it's hard to put a number on it, something happened. The reset started. And I think it finally started because I stopped preventing it. And I just accepted where I was. I just accepted that I was not going to see the orcas in the way I planned it. I was not going to meet some kind of Norwegian Viking husband, dream man. I was not going to do any of those things. I just accepted right there and then that it was me surviving in a haunted house for 6 days on an island that I knew nobody and that nobody lived. And then somewhere in the darkness, something happened. And I could just see that I didn't need to control whatever I was doing because I gave my control to the trolls, and I am pretty sure that they can use it because I come from a long line of controlling people. So the genetic combination of my control that I could give to the trolls must have been something. And I don't know what they're fighting there, but I do know that there's this intrusion of stuff going on in the spiritual realm that I don't want to go too deep into because, you know, it's none of my business. And I just want to add some color and some beautiful stuff to the world. But I do have the capability to communicate with other realms. So yeah, I gave my control to the Norwegian trolls, and I really hope that they fight off whatever is trying to intrude them there. If you would ever see them again, give them my love, and yeah, let me know if you meet them after meditating with the troll energy. Yeah, that was really cool and something very weird. Anyway, I did not only see darkness. At one point, I realized that my whole plan of trying to make the orca stuff happen, and, you know, calling the orca captain days and days, and he was like, it's not gonna happen. And I was still like, hi, there I am again. Do you think it's gonna happen today? No, because look outside, lady. I was very optimistic / naive / you never know. And it worked out for me because I at one point realized, okay, if I ever want to function in society again, I've got to find a way to actually come back to reality, because otherwise I might have to move to Northern Norway and never come back to society because it's very addictive. It's so peaceful. You're not part of any other stressy thing in the world. All you've got to do is make sure that your car is snow-free and you can drive to the little supermarket. It was very addictive, I've got to say. So at one point I realized, okay, now is the time to also start booking some touristic stuff. And then there were the huskies and the northern lights and the orcas even. And yeah, it was really beautiful. And because I had just experienced 6 days in the dark, let's say 8 days, no sun, longer than that actually. But I had this total reset. And then to start my year with the purest form of God's painting skills, it was like in a painting. And it was so beautiful that all I could do was just see it. I remember seeing the Norwegian light, or at least the not dark sky for the first time. It was crazy. I cannot describe the colors. And yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah. And I think what makes it so beautiful is that I went to Isolation Island to escape Christmas, the party of light. What I found was a complete and total reset in the darkness. That was also it was like a love letter to the darkness. It was an ode to the dark night that I've been so familiar with in the past. Even in that darkest darkness, there was light. It's all God. See you in the next video where I'm going to talk about the house itself.